You're listening to She's the Business podcast.
One of the essential skills that is required for anybody who is running a business, but they do not teach this to you in business school, is the skill of bravery. Now, my special guest today is an expert in the science of bravery, and she breaks down what bravery really is and what it's not, and guarantee that there's some definite learnings in there for all of us. And also why bravery is so important if you actually do want to be successful in business, create a big impact and also feel really fulfilled in your life. So please stay tuned. This is such an important conversation for anyone because trust me, we all come up against the barriers to bravery in our business all the time. So stay tuned. It's coming right up. Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Osborne, and over the last 25 years in marketing and business, I've helped many brands to launch, scale, and grow, with some of them becoming multi-billion-dollar companies. I'm here to inspire you to get out of your own way and create a profitable, fulfilling business while living the lifestyle you really desire, without all the hustle. So I bring you She's the Business podcast, a unique blend of strategies, tactics, mindset, health, and spirituality, literally everything you need to be the successful leader of your dream business. Made by women, for women, this is your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration. In just a moment, I'm going to introduce you to my special guest today, who is Jill Schulman. She is absolutely incredible, an expert in the science of bravery, having studied positive psychology. She has a master's in applied positive psychology, which is the science of happiness and well-being, but she's combined in her own research, real-world experience, starting from her initial career as a US Marine. She is a Marine Corps veteran, but has also spent 14 years in the corporate world and has been an entrepreneur as well with her own business. So she is an absolute wealth of knowledge. She shares so much insight and understanding into this art of and the science of bravery, and also the effect that bravery and adopting bravery, like actually, as she calls it, building your bravery muscle, the incredible impact that can have on your business, on your results, on your success, fulfillment, and on your life in general. So without further ado, let me press play on this interview and introduce you to Jill. Hi, so I'm here with the lovely Jill Schulman. Jill, thank you so much for coming and joining me here on She's a Business podcast today. Really keen to get into this topic around bravery, because what entrepreneur doesn't need to be brave? I don't know. I think you are brave if you are an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah. And I'm so excited to be here and talking about this subject. And I think you're right. It's even more important for those of us who are entrepreneurs, myself included. But yeah, your audience is probably pretty brave already if they've started their own business. But hopefully there's still a couple more things they can learn to elevate their success in their business.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we all go on that roller coaster of, obviously we have an ability to be brave, but then there's so many things that can stop us in our tracks, turn it off, and the fear can rise up, as everybody listening would know. We all get into the fear and the doubts and all of those things. So I'm really keen to hear your wisdom on it, being an expert in the science of bravery. It's so exciting. But before we dive into this, please give us a quick overview of who you are, who do you serve, a little bit about you. How did you even become an expert in the science of bravery?
I know. It's kind of like, you're an expert in what? And is that even a thing, right? So I think I started learning about bravery in my first career. And my first career is, I live in the US, probably can tell from my accent. And my first career was in the United States Marine Corps. And in the US, out of all of our branches of service, the Marine Corps is kind of known as the few, the proud, the toughest. So I started learning about bravery as a Marine. Went then to corporate America, large pharmaceutical companies. So I was there for 14 years in pharmaceutical biotech device companies. And then I decided to become an entrepreneur, and I started my own company. And oh my gosh, I've learned so much in that journey. And what really brings us to the end of, or the answer to your question is like the science of bravery still like, where is this coming from? I decided to be brave and go back to school about 3 years ago and to study positive psychology. So positive psychology is a study of happiness and well-being. Did you know that's such a thing? That there is a study,
No.
there's a scientific study of elevating our happiness and well-being. And I stumbled upon this research because my company does leadership development to drive results in organizations. And I stumbled upon it because there was this author. He's the whole reason that I either blame or give credit for going back to school and going through that whole hard journey. His name is Sean Aker. He actually just blurbed or is endorsing my book. But he wrote a book called The Happiness Advantage. And he talks about how your emotional state, right, is a driver of business success. And I'm like, wow. I just kind of knew it intuitively, but I'm like, there's a scientific study of this. And so I went down these rabbit holes and went back and I studied positive psychology at UPenn, which is, probably the best school in the world for it because Marty Seligman is the father of positive psychology and he started the program and he still teaches there. So so that kind of brings me to the end of my journey. And what I did my research on at the end of my master's program was really, it just ended up landing there. And the reason I ended up studying that is because I want people to live their best life. I want them to elevate not just their success, but their happiness and well-being. And what I ended up stumbling upon and did my research on, and this is what I'm on a mission to share, is the secret to happiness and success is not eliminating challenges and adversity. And it's not having an easy life. It's not. It's actually the opposite, which is trying to do really hard things that align with your motivation, your values, and then being able to endure the ups and downs in achieving it, right? That increases self-confidence and self-efficacy. So really choosing the hard path, which is what entrepreneurs do, right? Many times. So for all of you out there that are going like, oh my gosh, this is so hard and I'm going through so many struggles, like you're doing all the right things. You're really, sometimes it's hard in the moment, but these are the things that lead to the highest levels of pride and satisfaction. So I'm trying to kind of like right the ship, because do you feel this way? That Jessica, some people feel that to be happy, you want no challenges and you want everything.
I think there is that wiring that we have, especially women, right, to avoid conflict and avoid situations where we feel uncomfortable or where we feel, like there's no certainty. And I think that there is a whole wiring that we have had maybe in our culture and our upbringing to avoid risk, right? Identify the risk. Well, I think actually humans, we are wired to avoid risk and identify risk, right? So it is interesting because while you're saying that, I was like, absolutely. It is when we take on a challenge, we do something that we didn't even know whether we could do it, and we achieve it. That is where you get the most satisfaction and fulfillment. And, that really is leading you to having that happiness and fulfilling life. Yeah. I'm like, boom, you just said it straight away. It's curious, isn't it? Because it's almost like the exact opposite of what we're wired to do.
Counterintuitive. Yes. And I love that you brought up our evolutionary roots, because we are more motivated to avoid fear. Right. So for anyone who might have shied away for things that feel risky or we're kind of scared of or uncomfortable, like you're just human. Right. But what I teach, my audiences, as also in the book, is to really differentiate between fear that's there to protect you and the fear from things that you really want, things that align with your values or your goals that you're scared of them because you're a little uncertain or you're afraid you might fail, but accomplishing them. So it's differentiating like different types of fear and knowing which ones to listen to so that you can be safe. So if a weird stranger pulls up beside you and says, get in, and you have this weird, like, okay, don't get into the car. Don't be like, I'm going to be brave. Okay. So some fear is good. When we let fear keep us small and prevent us from trying to achieve what we want, that is the fear that we want to try to overcome so we can live our best life.
Yeah, that fear of the unknown, the fear of like, but can I really do it? Like, I've got this idea, I've got this vision, but can I even do it? And I'm afraid of what might happen if I don't. I think that's probably one of the biggest ones, right?
What if
Even
I
if you've
fail?
started a business, because I think a lot of people start a business, and that is a huge step. I just have to say congratulations to anybody who has actually started a business, because guess what? There are millions of people who have that idea and they're sitting back thinking one day I'll know it's the right time, or I'll get a sign, or they're waiting for permission, or they're waiting to feel differently about it, and they never do it, right? And they just end up going, well, I've just got to give that dream away. And it's like, well, you actually just had to take action. Like, nobody has got it all figured out. No one knows what they're doing. Everybody who started has just started. So when you've done that, it's amazing. Like, congratulations. And then it's like, then you come up against all these new fears of like,
Yeah.
oh, but well, if
It's
I
so
do
true.
that, what if it doesn't work? And what will people,
Yeah.
there's a lot in it. Do you think, like, are people born with an ability to be brave? Is this something you're born with? Is it something you develop? What's your take on that?
Well, I'm going to try to always give you not just Jill's opinion, but I'm definitely a nerd, so I'll give you the scientific answer, because
Yes.
this has actually been studied. So bravery, think of it as it's a character strength, right? Some people have it more naturally, but what we know, which is true of all character strengths, is you can build any of those. So anyone can learn to be brave. So you don't either have it or you don't. And this has actually been proven when it comes to, like, think of it as a muscle. So bravery is like a muscle. Like, if you go into the gym and you want like really big, strong biceps, you don't go in and try to lift 50-pound, or I don't know, whatever kilos that is, like really heavy, weights to try to curl it. And if you can't lift it, then you're like, well, it just didn't work. Right. I mean, that's just not what happens. You got to start lifting like smaller weights, and then you're going to lift until your muscles fail and it hurts and it's uncomfortable, but then you grow stronger and then you can do more weights. And so bravery is the same way, right? So, anyone can build their bravery muscle and become braver. And then even the people that you think of as like the bravest people ever, like, they may be brave to maybe take some bold action, but I have a free assessment that's on my website, I'll tell you about later, but I look at bravery in 3 different dimensions: bravery mindset, so your beliefs on what you can do; then bravery action, like the action that you take, which is taking steps in the presence of fear; but then also brave relationships. So people who think they're brave, when we dig into, are they comfortable admitting mistakes or asking for help? Those people realize, like, oh, I'm not really brave in that way. So everyone has opportunities to build their bravery muscle.
Yeah. Incredible. If you were to define what bravery is, how would you define it? Like, what is the definition?
Well, what bravery is not, it's not being fearless. And that's a mistake people have. They're like, oh, wait, in order to be brave, I need to wait until the fear goes away, until I feel ready. So if someone doesn't have any fear, then they're not being brave. Bravery is defined as taking steps toward something in the presence of fear. So having the courage to take steps and take action in the presence of fear. So what I try to help people realize is, if you're a little bit nervous, then you're absolutely normal. And now it's an opportunity. You have an opportunity to be brave. Am I going to take a step forward, even though I don't feel 100% ready? I'm a little bit uncertain. I feel a little bit of that fear, or it's going to be uncomfortable. Am I stepping forward, or am I choosing to let that fear, that discomfort hold me back? Which, another word for that would be, am I going to cower? Or am I going to be courageous? Which of these things am I going to do? So that's what bravery is: taking the steps forward in the presence of fear, choosing brave or courage versus, cowardice. And it has a tremendous impact on our success and our well-being if we consistently choose bravery or choosing to cower. I mean, I think it was, have you ever heard like financial advisors talk about, like, the key to having like wealth at the end of your life is like consistently like save over time, right?
Yeah.
So think of it the same way as bravery. Like, what would be the cumulative effect, which is the name of my book, it's called Bravery Effect, because I'm really interested in, like, I don't want people to be brave just to have bravado. I want you to know about the research on what is the effect of bravery. So let's say you're an entrepreneur, right? And you you need to come up with like some videos, some social media videos to really promote but you're like a little nervous and go like, oh, that sounds like, oh, that I'm gonna look silly. And I don't know if that looks good. And you decide like, you're not going to do the little video. And then the next week, you need to have a tough conversation with maybe one of your contract employees or maybe a difficult customer, but you just don't want to be uncomfortable and have that conversation. So you just decide to not have it work out. And then the next week, there's a really big customer and you pitch them and you haven't heard back and you don't want to annoy and you want to follow up. And I don't want to be uncomfortable. I don't want to like bother them again. I'm not going to, all these little decisions. So like I think of for entrepreneurs or for most people in the world, I think of like the little mini bravery moments. And imagine the cumulative effect if in each of those situations we choose to not step forward, that we're going to stay safe, right? And mental, right, of that effect depending on what we choose.
Yeah, exactly. You're making me think of, I think a really common fear. So a lot of people say to me, oh, you've got a podcast and you do videos and I see you everywhere. And I'm like, yeah, but when I first started this business, I came from a background where I was not the face. Even though I did marketing, I sat behind a computer screen. I had graphic designers and I had all these people in my team and in my department. We produced things, but I wasn't standing up on stages or doing anything at all. And it was like, I kind of knew what I had to do, but it wasn't like you just go suddenly from nothing to everything. It was like, okay, I need to get comfortable putting a photo of me on my social media page in a public, an actual photo. I now need to get comfortable taking a selfie and posting it on a business page. I'm basically building a brand here and it's not a professional photo. I had to, like, each little thing was like, it was uncomfortable, but I'm like, okay, I forced myself to do it. I forced myself to do a first Facebook Live, and hilariously, I don't know whether it was the first or second, but literally one of the very first ones I did, my video was sideways because I don't know how I did it. It must have been on my phone. And I thought, I'll put it landscape because that's how, this is years ago now.
Everyone's watching it like this.
Yeah, I didn't know. So I talked through the whole thing and then it posted on my page and one of my friends saw it and they went, do you know that your video is sideways? And I was like, had no idea. So, and I knew that there were people on the live with me at the time. No one said a word, hilariously. And I just had to laugh and go, how funny. And so all those moments, I think, then build like you're saying, it's like you build a tolerance to it. You know, like when you're in the gym, you start off with the small weights and then you slowly progress. It was like this tolerance. And I remember having then, broke a seal of doing lives and then gradually got more comfortable. And, I was thinking about doing a podcast. I thought about it for 2 years before I even launched it.
Yeah.
Right. 2 years I thought about it. I was saving bits of audio and stuff because I was like, oh, I could use these for the podcast. And it got to the point where I'm like, if I don't use this stuff I've been saving, it's going to be obsolete. So it's now or never. And I just had to go, bang, I'm just doing it. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm doing it. Right. And if you went back, sorry, I know I've gone off on down a tangent, but
no,
you go
it's
back to the very
great
first
example.
episode.
Yeah. You learn by doing, and like anytime we stretch ourselves or we try to grow or we're trying anything new, it will be awkward and you will have early failures. And that's the way it is for everyone. And I think that's one of the things that we have to understand is I think sometimes we think that, all right, I've got this great idea. I'm going to start this business and I'm going to launch it. And then everything's going to go perfectly and it's going to be linear. And I'm just going to grow it over time. There's going to be no ups and downs and I'm going to be super successful. And we just think that success is linear. But here's the truth. Like anything, there's going to be, success is up and down and around and twists and turns. And we have to actually anticipate it. Yeah. And, some of the evidence from Gabriele Oettingen from the University of Hamburg, like she's someone who also contributes to the field of positive psychology. And sometimes people, think that since I studied positive psychology, everything is just going to be like positive and Pollyanna. And what she actually teaches is when you develop a plan, right, to, let's say, start a business or anything, any project or anything that you're doing. She said, one of the keys to be able to successfully achieve your goal is to anticipate the obstacles and know that there's going to be ups and downs, right? And when you anticipate it, first of all, you're actually thinking ahead and you're anticipating what might go wrong. So when it happens, you know, you have a contingency plan, but it also is preparing you psychologically where when something goes wrong, you're like, I knew this would happen. I knew something would happen. And now you're not thinking like the sky is falling and I'm not a success and I shouldn't be an entrepreneur, but you're like, I knew there's ups and downs, right? So
Yeah.
just
So
knowing,
true.
yeah.
And I think that's the real difference is like anticipating these things that are going to go wrong, but they're not the reason not to do it, right? They're just like, I know that there's going to be the minefields out there and I'm going to strike one of them. I don't know what one, I'm not sure which one's going to pop up, but there will be some and that's okay. And I will be okay. And, you know, that's to be expected. So, you know, you did mention earlier, and I kind of wanted to ask that question now around the emotional state then that you are in. And is this, you know, please talk about that because I think that that is the difference, you know, sorry, and I may be trying to talk about it without knowing it, so I'm going to hand over to you. But, you know, how does your emotional state play into this whole shift in how you're approaching things and, you know, taking on that mantle of bravery?
Yeah. Well, our emotional state, or I want to even state something a little bit more broad, our mindset, and I include our emotional state in that, is absolutely critical to becoming braver or being able to accomplish hard things. So, you know, I think a lot of times, you know, I do a lot of work with corporate America and then of course, small businesses, even like myself, but like, you know, sometimes we ignore our mindset and our emotional state and we just get to doing the thing, but we don't really ever spend time working on our mindset, the cognitive side of success. And it's a miss because most people think like, oh, I don't have any, it's something mental. Oh, there's nothing wrong with me. That's for people who are like anxious or have mental problems. Like I'm just fine, right? The top performers, the most successful business people, the most elite athletes say the one thing that makes the biggest difference is when they work on the cognitive side of performance. It's the science of peak performance. So I just want to state that first. So we should all be working on our mindset, our emotional state, if you want to be the most successful. So winners, brave warriors do that, right? Not weak people. So working on the emotional state, working on our mindset is what the badasses in the world do, not just the weak people. So I want to first of all, like kind of correct that. But, and then when it comes to the mindset, you know, our beliefs impact our behaviors, right? I mean, sometimes we just focus on the behavior, but we got to go upstream and go, what's causing the behavior? So this is where my psychology background, we have to go upstream and look at what are the beliefs that we have that's creating the behaviors, because beliefs impact behaviors, behaviors impact results. So like, I want to go all the way up to the source. And so, so there's a lot of things I talk about, you know, as when I speak, you know, to audience around the globe, or even in my book, which is under mindset, I talk about growth mindset. I talk about generating optimism versus pessimism. I talk about our mental chatter, the voice inside of your head.
Yeah.
Everyone
The inner critic.
The inner critic versus the inner cheerleader. And then also just like that generating the emotional state, because that's really what you specifically asked about. So what we know based on research is, first of all, we are not our emotions. So let's say something happens and it's a setback. I'm not saying absolutely ignore your emotions, because if you ignore them, they're just going to pop back up. So you want to recognize your emotions. This is a setback. This is hard. So instead of just saying, I am sad, just like I'm experiencing disappointment because. So just by naming it, we're just saying, I'm experiencing something I'm not. It's just you name the emotion that creates some cognitive distance from the event. And then ask yourself, so you recognize it. I'm feeling this way. But then here's the most powerful part. And when I discovered this, it was a game changer for me. So I hope it is for you as well. You have an ability to generate the emotional state that best serves you and your employees, if you have any in your small business, or the customers that you serve. Let's say I'm having a bad day and I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. I had a flat tire. I don't know, whatever happens to you, that just, you know, you're just having a bad day. You go into your business and your customer service, you know, your energy impacts customer satisfaction. So this is where you've got to make a decision. Like, do you want to try to alter your emotional state? And you can. We can generate the emotions, right? There's things that we can do to try to shift our emotional state to best serve us, our customers, and everyone in our life. And that's all from Barbara Fredrickson. She's wrote a book on positivity. And like when I learned this, and she actually lectured when I was at Penn, and I'm like, wow. So there's things that we can do, like, know about like exercise. That's one of them. But also, is there a couple of songs? Can you do a gratitude practice? Like, what is your so when you're in that negative emotional state, recognize it and go, and you have your own little checklist of things to do. Like, hey, when I want to get kind of over it and into a positive emotional state, what am I going to do? So for me, it's always doing the 3 good things that have happened to me. And then I get into what are my goals? What is going to best serve me? And then this is a simple thing, but you know how music can change your emotional state?
Oh, totally.
So for me, I put on a song, right? And I think about what's going right. And I kind of start dancing in my car, and something that simple. Now, everyone has a different formula. Like I'm not telling people to do what I do, but figure out how you can shift your emotional state, right? So isn't that amazing that we are not a victim of our emotions?
Yeah.
Recognize them and choose that I need some joy and positivity. What brings me joy? What can I do to proactively elevate or, to experience more joy so that I can emanate that to my customers?
Do you think that the emotional state drives the thoughts, which therefore drives the behaviors? Like, do you think that if you know how you said
they all connect,
we like to go back to the source? I was like, interesting, like, which is the first one? Like, does the thought make you feel emotion, or does the emotion actually drive your thought?
It's a loop. It can be both.
There's a little loop that happens there, isn't there?
There's a loop there, because also, like, the message that we keep hearing over and over and over again, right? The thought can drive the emotional state, right? So it's the loop. And that's the other thing that we talk about, which is, do you have that inner critic, and what is it saying? And are you going to just keep listening to it, or are you going to change that inner dialogue? So that's another thing I challenge people to do. And this is not easy. This takes some bravery, but first of all, you have to recognize, like, what is that inner dialogue? And is it helping me, or is it hindering me? And if it is not helping you, you have a choice. Do you want to shift that? Because it's not helping you, right? It makes a big impact. So then we teach people the strategies of how you can change. Instead of listening to that voice, I want you to start talking to yourself, right? And you can try to override that, and that can change your emotional state. So they kind of dance back and forth.
They do, yeah. The more I think about it, I've done some work on my inner critic, and I love that you recommend that, because I've had full conversations in my head, sometimes arguments, like it's hilarious, right? But it's like the longer that you allow that disempowering voice to take control of you, then you really do stay in that place, and it affects your emotional state. And like you say, then it affects your energy, it affects how you're showing up. So many things. And I think that, something that's probably relevant for everybody listening just on that, you can always anticipate some of the risks or things that are going to happen and go wrong, and knowingly step forward anyway and think, I can handle it. I know what they are. There are going to be some that you don't know. And I just have to say, with coming from a background in marketing and then in entrepreneurship, anytime you're running any sort of event, especially a live event, whether that's a webinar or, a live stream, whatever, something will happen that you had no clue about, that has never happened before to you. And it's just a surprise, right? And the thing is that I learned that a really long time ago. Luckily, before I stepped into this space, I was like, anytime you're running an event, something random is about to go wrong. And I ended up at one point having to change a venue and literally put on an event for 300 people within 3 days. Like we had all of these people come. We had media coming. It was an opening of a building. And at the last minute, the boss was like, nope, we're doing it here. And it was like, change gears. Whoosh, we've got 3 days to make this happen. It was insanity, and we pulled it off. No one knew. Everyone was like, that was incredible, amazing, And I was like, oh my God, if you knew what had happened behind the scenes, you would have been appalled and amazed at the same time. But, the thing was that what that taught me was be prepared for the unexpected And also just know that you can handle it.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
yeah, it might be crap. The world is not going to end. You're not going to die, like probably, like because we're doing business. We're not out there in the Marines fighting on the front or anything like that. So very unlikely that you're going to die, and the world's not going to collapse. Like the sun will come up tomorrow, you know. And I think it's that thing, like, you know, you can handle it. You don't actually have to anticipate every single potential danger in order to be brave and take that step forward. You can actually just know, hey, you know, I've identified some things that could happen. I've put some things in place that could mitigate it if they are important enough. Sometimes it's okay just to let something happen because it's all right.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Just be ready, and it's about having the confidence that you're going to be able to find a way around it. So that's really the key, is how do you react to that adversity? Because sometimes we can make it worse. Our reaction to the thing that happens is what makes it worse versus positive. And if I go back to, like, there's a research done by Marty Seligman. He wrote actually a book called Learned Optimism. And so really it is, things are going to happen to all of us, bad things, adversity, setbacks, but it's how we react. And so a lot of people have a pessimistic response, which means basically like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling, it's going to ruin everything, and there's no way we're going to be able to overcome it. So if you have that catastrophizing response, then imagine like this is going to ruin everything, and we're not going to be able to your situation.
And that's what stops you, right? Like it stops you from doing
exactly.
it.
And the reason why it's important is that pessimistic belief stops you from taking action, the behavior. You're exactly right. But if we just believe like, okay, and I'm not asking people to be Pollyanna, I'm asking people to be, all right, so they just changed the venue and it's 3 days away. This is almost impossible. I can't believe this is happening. And like, okay, all right. So the reality is this really sucks. It's going to be really hard. But I believe that we can take some action to make the best of the situation, overcome it. So it's having the optimism that you can move forward despite it. Like that's the key. And that, exactly. Yeah, you've got it.
Exactly. And I think the point of bringing that story up, which I kind of lost track of while I was telling it, was that it's kind of brings it back to that emotional state. So when the thing happens that you didn't even know was going to happen, how, like you say, how you react and respond to it is how you progress. And it's knowing that, okay, it's okay to have a like, whoa, okay, there's a moment I might be worried or concerned or upset or be in a state where I'm frustrated because this has happened. And that ability to go, well, yes, I knew that something was going to happen. And this is the thing, you know, it's like when you get married, oh no, it's going to rain now. And like, we need a plan B or whatever it is. It's like something happens. It's you never expected. And it's that ability to think, okay, I'm going to roll with it. So you bring yourself back to, like you're saying, that positive mindset, but that emotional state where you're not freaking out. You're like, okay, I've had an emotion. Yep. Now what? Now you like go back into action.
Yeah. I love it.
Or I'm not sure if you have.
No, and I think one practical tip too, because I mean, what you're saying is we're literally kind of arguing with ourselves. Like we're trying to challenge the belief with actually reality, which is like, no, this isn't the end of the world. It is possible. So, you know, which is exactly correct. That's what we do, is we try to refute the negative thoughts that are usually not the truth. Like if we say like, I'm a loser, like I'll never be able to do this, like that is ridiculous. That's not the truth. That is the inner critic talking. And then we need to correct the inner critic with the truth, which is, this is a setback. Yeah. Or maybe like, this wasn't your best moment if you actually made a mistake, but you can learn from this. What can you do now to overcome it? But when we talk about like arguing with yourself, some people are like, okay, now you're starting to sound crazy, right? You're like arguing with yourself. So here's my tip, which just makes it really simple. Like imagine if someone you really love and care about, a best friend, a sister, a child, or something, the things that you're hearing in your mind, how you're responding to the adversity is something they're saying out loud to themselves. And if you heard this loved one say, oh my gosh, I suck, I'm a loser, I'm never going to, like whatever that negative thing is, or I'm never going to be able to overcome this, what would you say to the loved one? Right? So that's the little hint, is just talk to yourself as if you're this wise mentor that actually knows more, that's not in the middle of all the emotion here, that has that wisdom, and say, like, what advice would that wise mentor that knows the truth, what would they say to you? And that really helps me get out, because sometimes you just get in the spiral. Your amygdala is like responding, and like it's called the amygdala hijack, and be like, all right, take a couple breaths. Let me bring in this wise sage of a mentor. Like, what would that, if I were that wise sage giving advice to someone else saying this, what would I say? And that usually leads you to kind of to say the right things, which is like, yeah, this was really hard. It was a setback. You can overcome this, and you will learn from this. So what next? What are you going to do?
Yes, exactly. And like, once you start taking action again, you're out of that place of freeze.
Isn't that so true?
Which is so good.
Just stop thinking and start taking steps forward, right? So we got to get out of the just out of our mind, because we just can sometimes just take a step to start solving it, right? So brave action.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think? Like, so in business, maybe the person running the business, we're listening now and we're like, yes, I have my own business. You're like, I get this and I can do it. But people in my team, how do I create that culture of other people being able to step in and be in that place as well? Because that's great if you're regulating yourself and you're ready to take action, but everyone else is still in freak out. Like, what tips and advice do you have for people like us?
Well, I say the first
teams?
thing, and now you're totally in my wheelhouse, because I've been doing like leadership development for the last 15, 16 years, is, number one is how you respond to the adversity sets the tone with your team. So even more reason for you to acknowledge the reality of the setback, and then say things about your optimism for what you and the team can do to move forward. So kind of like the same little conversation you had to yourself, now you say it out loud to your team. If you are freaking out and in an emotional spiral, your team will do the same thing, but it'll amplify it, right? So they're watching you. It's so important. Like, your response to things is so important, because it sets the tone for the rest of the team, when you have those setbacks. So, and what we advise like leaders to do is to gain that emotional intelligence. What we're really talking about is emotional intelligence. There's going to be triggers, but just realize that in between the thing that happens and your response, you can create a little bit of space, so you might have to, like, this thing happens and just say, all right, let's take a break and let's regroup in 30 minutes and we're going to solve this. You might have to give yourself the 30 minutes to, do that little self-talk and calm yourself down and take some breaths and come up with it. So give yourself that little bit of space, right? So you want to lead, but then also always go back to your why. What motivates you and the team that you lead is, what is the why? Are you trying to create the best product that can solve problems for your customers? Are you trying to help people live a healthier life? Like, what is the mission of your company, and make that your North Star? Because that can really motivate your team. Like, this is a setback here, but we're here too. And then whatever your powerful purpose, your mission statement is, like, let's keep that front and center to motivate us to overcome this challenge. So, as leaders, we want to always make sure, and I'm going to go back to my military roots here. We always say, like, we've got to have what's the purpose, right? And that needs to be inspiring. What's our mission? Like, what are we really trying to do? And then you need to really empower your people to be able to accomplish the mission. So, get them to, if I've got a mission to be able to accomplish and my commanding officer is not there, but I believe in it and I know the why, I've got a little bit of agility and execution, right? So if I'm supposed to go this way to advance on the enemy and then someone blew the bridge, I'm not going to just sit there and go, well, the boss isn't here. Like, the boss told us, like, we got to get there and we got to show up. So the bridge has been blown. We've got to find another way to get over there. So you want to give people a little bit of autonomy, some ownership, some skin in the game to make decisions. And then they'll become brand ambassadors instead of just order takers. Yeah,
I was just going to ask, how do you frame your expectation of, I guess, whether you've got a value that it literally is called bravery or it's in some other format or wording, whatever that is, but to instill that kind of culture in your business, I'm kind of thinking, well, you want people to be brave, but do you want to give them some parameters around how far are we going with this? Is there too far or
Yeah.
not? I think most people probably tend to err on the other side of being too cautious.
I think that
is there too far?
I think sometimes, especially if we're like owning our business, we want to sometimes limit their autonomy because we're scared they may do something wrong. But to make people a little bit more comfortable, as long as first of all, you need to focus a lot on the culture of your organization, not just like the business side, because culture eats strategy for lunch. That's a Peter Drucker quote, right? So making sure that every member of your team, anyone who represents your brand, they need to know the why of your brand, the value you're trying to bring to your customers. Secondly, then they need to know what they're supposed to do, and the standard should be very high. Like, here's what I'm asking you to do to try to bring that why to our customers. So they need to have a clear what, and then that's got to be very clear, like what their scope is. But then you also need to be very clear on your how. What are your values of not just getting the work done, but how they behave as they're getting that done. So if you put the work into, here's why we exist, right? Here's what we're trying to achieve this year. Here's what you specifically are going to do to contribute to it. And here's the values that we have. If you put the effort into that, then you can let go more. Because as long as they're, they have that as the framework, then they should be operating within, those are kind of the parameters, without just saying like, I just want you to sit at the counter and do this thing and only refund up to $5. Like, well, why don't you just tell them, like, we're really trying to create an ideal customer service. I trust you. This is the secret, is making people feel that I trust you and your judgment, right? We're trying to be profitable. We're trying to do these things, but we really want customers to be happy, right? So I want you to make decisions in the moment. That's as if you were the CEO of this company as a business owner. Yeah. And as long as you justify it, like, I'm going to stand behind you, right? So I try to encourage people to like do more empowering, because when people feel like they're a mindless doer, like, I'm just here to just do what I'm told, then, then.
Yeah. Well, there's a lack of responsibility there. And, I'm also just seeing at a high level, that's the real difference between a task-orientated direction versus outcome-orientated. Yes. So, that's what you were saying, like, tell them what is the outcome. What is it we're trying to achieve? What is their outcome, the expectation of what they're going to help achieve? So, if you had that person, you trust them to make the decision, because they're going to make it based on, well, this is the outcome that we're going for. And they can make the decision about whether this is going to help achieve that outcome or not in the moment, if they know what the outcome is. But if it's a task, they're going to be like, well, I don't know if I'm allowed to do that or that. So they'll probably,
and they won't do anything. And then they're going to like call you, and then you're not picking up the phone because you're dealing with something else, and the customer's sitting there and they're frustrated, and you're like, oh, I can't do it. Let me call, so you move faster that way. So you're right. Like, outcomes, values and outcomes, and then trust them. And maybe once in a while, they'll make a little bit of a mistake. Right. And then you just got to go, this is learning. Right. Like, so there was one little defect. You decided to refund the entire order instead of just give a 10% discount. Let's talk about a better way. Right. So it's all about learning.
Yeah. And those are things are going to happen. Right. So we know that they're going to happen, and we're not going to react to them.
I want to say one more thing on just employees here. Like, if this comes from Isaac Perlatinsky's research out of the University of Miami, like, what he teaches is, if people feel like they matter, they're going to do an amazing job for you, your company. And the way that you make people feel like they matter is like, think about mattering. I go to work and I matter. Like, I make a difference. So he says, if you allow people to bring value to your customers, to the company. So allow people to really make a difference, bring value, and then make them feel valued for what they do. So much of just leadership is not just like, here's what you're supposed to do, and like, here's the different resources and the training, but just make people feel valued, because then that's how you build that trust, and they're going to want to do the most amazing job for you. So I could go on and on about this, but I'll wrap it up there. So probably a long answer to a short question, but you got me all excited.
Oh, no, I love it. I love it. I love where this is going. So I'm curious, you've talked a lot about your research and everything you've done. You wrote a book on the science of bravery. Am I imagining that in the book there's like steps that you're taking us through in order to build that personal bravery? Like, tell us a bit about, do you have your own method?
Yeah, there's a method. So the book is called The Bravery Effect. And in it, it's actually written as a parable. So it's a story that only takes about 2 hours if you're a slow reader like me to read, and you learn about the steps in an entertaining, story format. But yes, there's 3 steps. The first thing you learn about is the brave mindset. So the cognitive side, realizing that discomfort, doing hard things isn't something you should run from, but you should run toward. And when you do, you'll become stronger and happier and more satisfied. So we talk about brave mindset. And then we get into the second major pillar or dimension of bravery, which is taking brave action. As you mentioned, you said, sometimes you just got to start acting. So I don't want to just talk about people's beliefs and then they're just sitting there, you actually have to do something, right? So then we talk about science behind taking brave action. And then finally, we talk about brave relationships. And that's the one thing we haven't really covered here is, anytime you do something that's a little bit scary, you're going to be more brave to take action if you know that there's people there that you can ask for help or will support you or encourage you on the way. So these 3 things they're all related and they support each other. I'd say maybe, what's the word I'm looking for? Synergistic, so if I'm going to try to climb a mountain I've never climbed before, that's pretty scary. I might not want to take a first step. But if I've got people that I seek out and say, oh, you've climbed this mountain before. What are some of the challenges you encounter? Do you have any tips for me? Can I call you if you need help? I'm so much more confident to start, set the goal and start moving toward it because I've got a brave tribe around me. So who are the people that are going to call forth your best and encourage you to do the hard thing and be there to pick you up when you fall, give you advice along the way. So really, if you believe that you can, if you take the action, you've got brave relationships, those 3 things together, you will be unstoppable.
Love it. Love it. And so where can we get a copy of the book if that's something that we're thinking we must get our teeth into? It sounds really great.
So I would love if you just go to my website, which is jillschulman.com. So Jill
I'll
is
link that up.
but Schulman is Schulman. If you go to my website, then there'll be links to buy the book. I mean, it's anywhere, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any of those things. And then I'm all over social media. At least I'm trying to do a good job of marketing. You can let me know if I'm doing a good job as an entrepreneur or marketing, but I'm on Instagram, Facebook, all that. And I do ask, people who are interested in building up their bravery mindset, action, or relationships, one best practice is, what are you going to do every morning to kind of motivate you to be brave? So what I try to do for all of my followers is give them something that takes 30 seconds to a minute where you'll get that little message to kind of remind you to choose to take that brave step versus cower each day. So that's another thing I try to commit to doing for if anyone, wants to follow me. But you can go to my all that stuff.
Oh, love it. That's so cool. All of those, the links to Jill's website with her book on it, where you can go and grab your own copy, will be in the show notes below. So do that. Also go and connect with her on socials. I love that idea of just a little thing that you can share each day to switch on that kind of brave mindset. So we can kind of just start the day in that way. How much more we're going to achieve, so much. I know there's so many things that we could have touched on today, Jill. I definitely had more questions in mind. I'm conscious of time and really appreciative of you spending so much time with us today. Is there any last, piece of advice that you wanted to leave with us as we're closing out this conversation?
Just that, remember that bravery is like a muscle. And in order to achieve your dreams and to be able to achieve your potential, we need to choose to be brave. And if we allow fear to hold us back, we're going to, at the end of our life, look back on our life with regret. So I just want to encourage everyone, it's not about being ready or being fearless. Remember, it's taking action in the presence of fear. And the best part of learning to be brave is it's not even about accomplishing the objective, the business objective. It's who you become on the journey of accomplishing hard things. That's the greatest gift of all because of how you feel about yourself. So I wish people the very best and do hard things, challenge yourself, get uncomfortable. You're going to be the happiest because of it.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Love it. Take the action, even with the fear there. That is just so great. Thank you so much, Jill. This has been an absolute pleasure. And I know that we'll stay in touch and stay connected. Can't wait to read your book as well. And thank you.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much for having me. And the next time I come down to your neck of the woods, I will have to look you up because I love Australia. It is so many amazing people, such a beautiful place. So let's talk about it.
I would love that. Awesome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.